back to the show today. We are talking about excuses in the NBA, and more broadly in life, and what is an excuse exactly? And why do our favorite NBA players and teams make them? Why do we even feel the need to justify not meeting expectations? Are the NBA champions every year just the teams that experience the least amount of bad luck? No, of course not. We just don't hear about the things that went wrong because they accomplished their ultimate goal. Any sort of hardships they experienced are kind of irrelevant. If anything, you can make an argument that they were kind of blessings in disguise, that they created some sort of butterfly effect that put them right where they wanted to be, holding to Larry O'Brien. So I wanted to bring a couple examples of players in the NBA since I've been a fan that have encountered forces outside of their control that have kept them from winning a championship. The first player I want to talk about is Joel Embiid. I like Joel now. I've been very ambivalent toward him over the years, but now I really like his personality. I think before he won the MVP award, he had a very woe is me attitude, being very upset all the time about not being MVP or Defensive Player of the Year. He was always very vocal about how personally he took the snub. But since he won the award, Joel's been very heads down and focused on getting wins for the 76ers. And here's the thing, Joel Embiid is a great player, and I'm an advanced stat queen. And even looking at his PI and PER rating, he is the best player in the league. I can't argue that. Also, his play amounts to winning. When he was out with injury, the Sixers were ass, and when he started playing again, they got good again. But Embiid occupies this weird space for me, where I cannot say he's one of the greats in the league, because the lack of consistency is there. I don't think it's fair to put him on the same level as Giannis, KD, LeBron, Steph, because those guys have at least won a championship. And it's unfortunate, but his playoff career has been defined by an excuse every year. You've got the 2019 Kawhi Leonard shot that knocked the Sixers out of the playoffs. You may think, well, the Raptors were good and that's a great shot. You're not wrong, but from a point standpoint, Embiid was really weak during that series. He only averaged 17.5 points per game. Then in 2020, the Sixers got swept by the Celtics in the first round. The excuse was Ben Simmons wasn't playing because of the good old Ben Simmons classic, my back hurts. And then in 2021, Simmons did play, but that was the year he blew an open layup against the Hawks because he didn't want to shoot free throws. We look back at the series and of course we blame Ben Simmons, right? He's the obvious scapegoat. But we all know it's a team sport and the Sixers had 336 minutes to get the job done and they didn't do it. To blame Simmons for a mistake he made in Game 7 with 3 minutes left on the clock feels a bit unfair to me. And keep in mind, the Hawks weren't good, dude. It's basically the same team they have now. Then we've got the orbital fracture year. Apparently there were 2 orbital fracture years. I don't remember the first one. Then last year they got beat by the Celtics. I think Harden took a lot of blame. I think Doc took a lot of blame. And keep in mind, I'm not saying Embiid isn't taking responsibility. One of the reasons I like Embiid is because he does take responsibility. And he always owns up to his mistakes. All I'm saying is there are NBA greats who get it done and have won championships. Not only did they get it done, some of them have done it multiple times. Or they at least have perennial postseason success, regardless of whatever misfortune occurs. Now this year, Embiid has his knee issue, he has cerebral palsy or whatever, or Bell's palsy, I forget which one it is. He has migraines, I don't know, this guy, is he cursed? He's getting points, but he's not really moving fast. I don't know if they're gonna beat the Knicks in this series, but it feels like they've already kind of half-packed their bag. Meanwhile, you've got Josh Hart out on the court playing 48 minutes. What is up? And no one is even making mention that Julius Randle isn't playing. The Knicks are ignoring their excuse. No one's talking about it. There's always a reason. There is always an excuse. It exists. There's always some reason outside of your control that is the reason you're not meeting expectations. But true champions focus on the factors that are inside of their control. They acknowledge their room for growth and their limitations. Michael Jordan did not have the strength and he did not have the stamina to play 7 games against the bad boy Pistons. So he hired personal trainer Tim Grover to put on muscle. Michael Jordan came back the following season totally yoked, and the Bulls swept the Detroit Pistons. Jordan could have said, hey, the Pistons are too dirty, they're cheaters, I don't know what I can do, I can't beat them if they're just gonna cheat all the time. The ref should be calling more fouls, it's not my fault. But that's not the Michael Jordan attitude, is it? He wasn't interested in excuses, he wasn't coming up with reasons to be more at peace with his failure. He wanted to win. Think about LeBron James in Game 6 of the Eastern Conference Finals in 2012. The Heat had to win or they were going home in a loss to LeBron's biggest rival, the Boston Celtics. It wasn't happening, especially because they'd already lost in the finals the year before to the Mavs. LeBron was gonna do whatever it took. LeBron had 45 points, 15 rebounds, and 5 assists. And the rest of the Heat had a terrible game. LeBron almost had half of the Heat's points. No one would have blamed LeBron if they lost. Everyone would have just thrown Bosh and Wade under the bus. But who was to blame was of no concern to LeBron James. The only concern he had was how the Heat were gonna win. That isn't to say that champions never pass blame. The other night, LeBron criticized the refs for not calling a foul in the 3rd quarter. Then in 2018, after losing in the finals to the Golden State Warriors, LeBron wore a hand cast in a post-game interview, as if to say, oh, by the way, the whole series I was playing with a broken hand. That's what a lot of people inferred, at least I did. It's a natural human instinct when you're being attacked or anticipating being attacked to get defensive and to deflect responsibility. I think more often we see this with coaches. They always play the card, hey, I'm not out on the court, all I can do is coach. I think the biggest deflector in NBA history is Doc Rivers. I don't want to discredit Doc as a coach. I've heard him talk X's and O's and he's clearly a schematic expert of the game. But Doc completely lacks the ability to take responsibility for his mistakes.
Taking a job when you're about to go on the toughest road trip of the season is not the smartest decision. I even told him that. Can we wait till All-Star break?
That's him after hitting a skid with the Bucks after he just took over the team this year, sort of blaming his bosses for hiring him. Then after this game, he was nothing but critical of his team.
You guys forget what we're running. Then we miss the shot and then nobody gets back. That tells you all you need to know about where our heads were. We had some guys here, we had some guys in Cabo.
Then 2 years ago, while he was coaching the Sixers, they were playing the Raptors in the first round of the playoffs, and the Raptors won 2 games in a row, putting the series at 3-2 Philly. This made the media ask him about his 3-1 blown leads that he's had in his playoff career.
My Orlando team was the 8th seed. That was an 8th seed. Go look at that. I want you to go back and look at that roster. I dare you to go back and look at that roster.
Now listen, I don't mind him contextualizing these blown leads, it's fine. I think everyone has the right to defend themselves. But when he goes bad on the roster he had in Orlando, totally unnecessary. Drew Gooden has to be like, dude, what the f? This defensiveness and blame shifting has kind of worked out for him. He's done this his entire coaching career and he's stayed employed. Doc has coached a team since 1999. When he gets fired, he's immediately rehired. General managers must hear him in these post-game interviews and think, I guess it's not his fault, he just said so. So that's 1 point for lack of taking responsibility. I don't know what to tell you. But most coaches do take responsibility for their team's failure. Just the other night, I was listening to Willie Green and Darvin Ham talk during a post-game interview. Both of them expressed their frustration with the refs, but ultimately recognized that the team had improvements to make, and they had to implement better strategies as a coach. I think the player that represents most good teamwork and accountability is Giannis. Unfortunately, there's no video of this quote he gave The Athletic. When he was being asked about the MVP conversation and why he really wasn't in it, he said, I feel like I'm the worst player in the NBA. I'll be honest with you, I feel like in a moment this can be taken away from me. I'm not as talented as Dame. I'm not as talented as Malik. I'm not as talented as Bobby. But I'm confident in the work that I put in. I can live with the outcome. I don't think this is false humility. I think Giannis believes this. He knows he's a product of his work ethic. He knows he's not special. As soon as he takes his foot off the gas and gets complacent, the decline will begin. The way I see it, Giannis had an incredible season. And the reason the Bucks season was kind of lackluster was because of the other players on the team. All the guys that he mentioned in that quote. But Giannis knows the only player whose performance he can control is his own. So bringing up his teammates or his coach's flaws only brings negativity to the team. The last example I want to bring up is Paul George in 2019, in the first round of the playoffs. After Game 5, when the Blazers beat the Thunder, when Dame hit this buzzer beater.
Lillard, long range three.
OKC went home and the Blazers went and moved on to the next round.
Yeah. I mean, that's a bad shot. I don't care what anybody says, that's a bad shot.
Paul George knew that was his man and he let him score. But he definitely wanted people to know that it wasn't his fault and that he made the right move, or at least his loose defense was justifiable. The thing is, PG is right. That is a bad shot. It's a very low percentage shot for any player in the NBA. The game is tied. You shouldn't risk fouling him, because then you send him to the line where he only has to make 1 free throw out of 3. His decision wasn't stupid. He just didn't need to say it. All he had to say was, it was a great shot. We lost. I will learn from this loss and do better next year. All right, thanks for being here. If I missed something, if there's another example of excuse maker that you want to talk about, let me know. I'll reply, I promise. If you liked the video, like it. If you didn't like the video, go thumbs down. I think it's all the same. Be good to your mothers. Eat a corn dog.